Hey guys, it's Hank here. Today we're going to be discussing a topic that comes up literally all the time, and it is what is the effect of testosterone on penile size, penile enlargement, and overall men's health. And we're going to break down all of that today. We're going to go through the papers, go through the science, and talk about ways you can naturally and artificially increase your testosterone. So stay tuned. Hey guys, so today's episode is all about testosterone, especially in regards to things like enlargement sciences. And so before we go into this, guys, this is my opinion based on my medical research, okay? Do your own research and form your own conclusions, okay? So let's get into it. First of all, does testosterone make your D bigger? Short answer, no, okay? Here's a paper here. It does not make your D bigger. It just doesn't if you went through a normal puberty. However, as you age or your testosterone levels start to decline, you can actually have atrophy, also known as shrinkage of your genitalia, if your testosterone levels start to drop, okay? And this is not to be confused with like atrophy or shrinkage of your testicle if you're using exogenous or like replacement testosterone. This is a different process. And so there's also the question of like DHT creams. I'm going to go through a whole basically paper going through like DHT creams, but essentially if you went through a normal puberty, DHT is not going to do anything. You can put all the DHT cream on your D that you want and it's not going to do anything. You might have some better erection quality, better arousal, but you'll probably get some hair loss amongst other things. Okay? But no, DHT is not going to help either, okay? So what kind of things does testosterone play a role with? Many of you all know this, but muscle mass, bone strength, lean tissue, so loss of fat, facial and pubic hair, deeper voice, sex drive, mood, quality of life, and even cognition are some of the things that testosterone plays a role in, okay? And that's why it's important to have healthy testosterone levels. And so what kind of things would be beneficial for having an elevated testosterone? Why would we want an elevated testosterone? Well, number one, decreased fat and increased muscle. The leaner you are, the larger your downstairs area is going to look. Period, end of discussion. A lot of guys say,
oh, well, my downstairs doesn't look that much bigger.
It's like, well, you haven't lost enough weight. If you lose enough weight, you're going to have a very, very thin fat pad and your downstairs area is going to look significantly bigger. One of the guys told me on Reddit, the smaller the plate, the bigger the steak is going to look, okay? So what else is important? Honestly, arousal and libido, I think that this is a very subtle part of PE that doesn't get recognized enough. When you are more aroused or you have a higher libido, number one, that's going to be very helpful if you're doing any kind of exercise that requires you to have good EQ, primarily girth work, but also the more arousal you have, the more blood flow is going to be going to your genitalia. The more healthy blood flow you have, basically the better you're going to function. There's been studies that have shown that actually as men age and their testosterone starts to go down, they can have worsened erectile function because they lose things like nighttime erection. They lose that regular healthy blood flow. So along with that, higher arousal, higher blood flow, you're also going to have a larger flaccid state. Basically, the more blood flow you're getting in that area, the bigger your flaccid is going to be. And then also, you're going to have improvement with your cognition. There have been papers that have associated things like depression, anxiety, mood swings, and social withdrawal, all with decreased testosterone levels. It is important for your mental health, okay? So what is a normal range of testosterone? So range is key, okay? You can have a very low or very high. In general, it's about 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. And that equivalence is about 10 to 35 nanomoles per liter, depending on where you are, what country, what units you guys have, okay? But it's a spectrum. And so in my opinion, if you're like an 18 to 20-year-old guy and you get your testosterone checked and your testosterone is 330, I would argue that is you're hypogonadal. You have low testosterone levels, even though you're within the normal range. That's still a very respectively a low range from what I would expect. Now, if you're 70 years old and your testosterone is 330, I would say, yep, you're more or less in a normal range, okay? And so here's some important studies that we're going to talk about. So this first study here demonstrates actually the association between testosterone levels and erection quality and erectile dysfunction. A key thing is you do not need testosterone to have an erection. There have been studies looking at eunuchs or people that have had their testicles essentially amputated, and you can still have an erection. However, there is an association with a significant decrease in the reduction, the frequency, and the rigidity of the erections if you are hypogonadal. But if you go on testosterone to correct this, and this is all part of this study here, you can only correct it so much. And so if you're hypogonadal and correct it, it's not like the more testosterone you have per post a certain level, you're not going to be able to correct it. And so why does testosterone decrease with age? In my case, when you're in your 40s, okay? Because in general, you have decreased Leydig cell functions. And so the Leydig cells, the Sertoli cells, these are all parts of the different testicle that are responsible for actually making your testosterone. You can also have increased things like sex hormone binding globulin, or SHBG. I'll try to have my editor put that up down below, which basically binds to your testosterone and decreases your free testosterone levels. And so I haven't mentioned that yet, but so when you're talking about testosterone levels, you have your total test level, okay, which doesn't tell you that much. It's helpful, but you can know your total test, but then you also need to know your free test, basically what is available to actually make you androgenic, okay, or to actually use in your body. If your testosterone level is really high and your sex hormone binding globulin is also really high, you're gonna have a very small amount of actual free test. And so you could have essentially a normal test level, but almost be hypogonadal if your SHBG is very high. Different things to think about. We'll go through this level later. What are some things that can decrease your testosterone level? Being overweight, guys. I hope you guys don't think I'm fat shaming out here, but there's obesity is an epidemic in America, and even childhood obesity. But you can dramatically increase your testosterone levels by just diet and exercise alone. Just diet and exercise. But I know that's hard to do for some people, okay? Also, fat essentially converts to estrogen. And so the more fat you have, the more estrogen precursors you're going to have, and so the higher your estrogens are going to be. And so if your estrogen levels are higher, testosterone levels are going to be lower, essentially, guys. I'm sure there's going to be some guy in the comments,
Well, actually, Doc King, yeah.
but whatever. I'm not going to go unhinged in this. I'm being general, guys, and so please feel free. If there's something that is incorrect in the comments, please correct me. All the comments do help the algorithm, okay? What else decreases your testosterone? Being sedentary, okay? It goes along with lack of diet and exercise. The more you sit around on your butt, the less testosterone you're gonna have. Exercise programs alone can increase your testosterone levels. As little as 15 minutes a day of biking in this study increased test levels. Malnutrition, if you're not eating enough calories, which very, very few people watching this video actually are, so people who are competing, natural bodybuilders competing, that can actually crash your testosterone levels. So narcotics can crash your test levels. SARMs and steroids. God almighty, I am sure that there's gonna be so many SARMs goblins in the...
Well, not all SARMs actually can decrease because...
It's guys, that's what a SARM is, okay? So essentially, if you are on a SARM long enough or on a high enough dose or your body is sensitive enough, it is going to shut down your testosterone production, period. Yes, some do it more than others, and just because you took a SARM and your test levels didn't decrease doesn't mean that SARMs don't decrease your test levels. Please stop being stupid. What else can do it? Hair loss drugs, okay? Things like finasteride. Finasteride actually, not all of the effect is from actually decreasing testosterone. It's the actually effects on DHT, which is one of the more potent forms of the testosterone. But you can have the effects of decreased testosterone on something like finasteride. I know I'm being general, guys. Feel free in your comment.
Well, actually, finasteride.
But anyways, okay? Not getting enough sleep can also cause you to be hypogonadal, okay, or low testosterone. And so here's some kind of really interesting ones that I think about. So parabens, or parabens. There's these compounds that are widely used. They're preserved in food, they're in cosmetics, toiletries, pharmaceuticals, but they actually exert an estrogenic activity. I'll put up this here and I'll put up a little link below so you can read about it more yourself. But you need to, when you're looking up products to use, even things like toothpaste, deodorant, look on the label, and I'll have my editor put up a little product here, but you can actually see where it is labeled no parabens used, okay? Because you do want to avoid this. There's extremely alarming data, I'll put up this paper here, about how this can do things like decreasing sperm counts, decreasing fertility, and even decrease testosterone. And I'll even link this video, which kind of blew my mind open here, that talks all about this decreased fertility and the impending, honestly, population crisis crash because of things like parabens. There's also BPA, bisphenol A, okay? And so if you look at a lot of water bottles, it'll say BPA free. You want to make sure it says this because here's animal data here showing that it decreases testosterone. Here's actually a paper here where you had a chemical factory that was exposed to high levels of BPA, and it had lower testosterone, lower fertility rates, erectile dysfunction, all because of BPA. Now that being said, if they say BPA free, they can still use things like BPF or BPS, which can still be problematic, especially when you're talking about from a neurologic component. So you need to be smart, but definitely use BPA-free bottles. I would recommend something like an aluminum bottle. That's what I drink out of, and I always try to avoid drinking out of any kind of like soft plastic. That's more so for the phthalates, which we'll talk about in just a second. But I drink out of basically a metal container, aluminum container, okay? Stainless steel, rather. What are phthalates, okay? So phthalates are these chemicals that are found in soft plastics that have been proven to decrease testicular function, and part of the way that they do this is by like occupying androgen receptors. So this can absolutely, here's a paper here, decrease testosterone and decrease testicular function, okay? The scary thing for this is that women who aren't aware, and let's say that they have a case of water that they keep in their car, and the water bottles keep hitting the sun, and they're drinking that water and they're pregnant, okay? That can actually decrease their in utero testosterone levels. And so they have these baby boys that are literally born with a shorter, what we call anogenital distance. So the distance between their scrotum and their anus, it's supposed to be longer in boys and shorter in women, and boys are being born with shorter and shorter anorectal distances, okay? And so this is something that is measurable, okay? Not only that, but when they're born with this shorter anorectal distance, they have decreased fertility, decreased sperm quality, and this is measurable. And so I'll put up a little YouTube clip here where you can see the difference in somebody with like a normal sperm count and normal motility versus somebody that's not, okay? And then there's, honestly, there's all these other chemicals that are actually quite fascinating, and there's even something that is called atrazine. And basically, this is a chemical that can be found naturally occurring, well, not naturally occurring, but because of humans, it can occur in things like foods and other things that we consume. It can literally turn straight frogs gay, okay? That is not in any way, shape, or form any kind of statement about homosexuality whatsoever. I just mean if you have frogs that normally reproduce in a heterosexual component, you can expose them to this chemical atrazine and it can literally turn them gay. If you don't believe me, just look it up. Don't believe anything I'm saying, guys. Look it up. Use the papers that I'm researching. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. Also, having your cell phone near your testicles can actually decrease sperm quality, okay? It can affect your testicles. Now, has this been proven to decrease testosterone levels? Not that I have seen, but there is data in rabbits and in animal studies looking at sperm quality and actual testicular function, and there is a significant decrease. What would I recommend? When I have my cell phone on me, I try to keep it either in my back pocket or in my hand. I never drive with like my cell phone in my groin. I try to keep that distance away, guys, and I would strongly recommend any of you guys that want, your test levels higher to do that, okay? So what should you do if you suspect that you have low testosterone? Go see a doctor and get checked. I get so frustrated when guys are like,
I think I have symptoms of low T, what should I do?
it's like, just prove it, okay? It might not be low T. It could be a variety of different things causing your symptoms. So go get checked. What do you want to check? Total T, free T, so T, I mean testosterone, your sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, your FSH, and your LH, so you can get a complete picture of what's going on, okay? So now we're going to talk about how to increase testosterone. Like I said, as a guy in my 40s, I'm absolutely looking for every ounce of test that I can get. So the number one thing you can do is basically the opposite of what I suggested before in like the don't do these things. If you are sedentary, be active. If you're not lifting weights and exercising, lift weights and exercise. If you're not sleeping, sleep. So then we get to things like supplements. What are some supplements? Number one, Fedosia agrestis, okay? If you haven't seen this, like Huberman made this like a big deal, but basically in rats, they've proven that it not only increases their improved sexual function, it increases your testosterone, and it works as an aphrodisiac. Here's a paper right here. Here's a paper showing that it restores penile health in erections by correcting nitric oxide and cyclic GMP pathways. And this was especially in people that were having side effects from paroxetine and pre-ejaculation medication, okay? Here's another paper here. How does it work? Elevated luteinizing hormone signaling the testicles to make more testosterone, okay? So an important thing with all these supplements is that if you take these supplements, you can literally increase your testosterone naturally by 100 to 200 nanograms per deciliter, okay? So a significant jump. But if you stop taking them, it's not like you're gonna crash, okay? You're just gonna go right back down to your baseline. Okay, the next one is going to be Tongkat Ali or long jack, okay? Here's a paper showing that especially in older men, you have significantly increased testosterone levels. And so this next paper is literally the gold standard of research, okay? It is a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, and you have a significant increase in testosterone in human subjects. The end, guys. This stuff is literally proven by science, okay? And this paper here actually shows that you have improved erectile function. They can even have some inhibition of phosphodiesterase, meaning some Viagra-like activity. And in this paper here, you can actually even have increased semen volume and improvement in your sexual function, okay? How does it work? Increasing your FSH and your LH, okay? Two things that are gonna help you naturally stimulate testosterone production. So what's next? Ginger. And so in this paper here, you can show that a 17% increase in testosterone in humans, as well as an increase in sperm count and motility, meaning how the sperm actually swim, okay? That's how sperm swim, if you weren't aware. There are all these papers here that I'm gonna put up that all demonstrate this, okay? Once again, a similar mechanism of action with your FSH and your LH. There's fenugreek, which is also known as testosterone, okay? You have increased testosterone and sexual function in this paper here. This meta-analysis here showed that it effectively increased your testosterone. And this is simulating proliferation of your Sertoli cells and your GIMs and your germ cells, okay? And so once again, stimulating the increase of testosterone. Shilajit, I don't know how to say it, guys. I'll put the word up here, extract. What these papers have shown that when you have these double-blind placebo-controlled studies, once again, that you can have dramatic increases in your total and free testosterone levels in as little as 30 to 90 days. Like I think in this study, they measured it at 90 days. But you can have these dramatic increases, guys. And this works primarily by decreasing your cortisol. So when you're stressed out, your body is not sending signals to actually like increase your testosterone. It's sending you signals to like, you know, brace for some horrible stuff to happen. And so when you are more relaxed, you're going to stimulate more testosterone to be produced. Also, it increases your luteinizing hormone. There's also boron or boron citrate, okay? Once again, this has been shown to support healthy testosterone levels in multiple different studies. Key thing with this is kind of like citrulline, where you need to be careful if it's citrulline malate. So you need to be careful if it's boron versus boron citrate because doses can be different. You need much more of the boron citrate because it's combined with citric acid. So just make sure when you're looking for ingredients that if it is boron citrate, you want to see high levels like into the 80s. And then there's also ashwagandha. A lot of people know about this. So ashwagandha increases your testosterone and even in this paper increased actual gym performance. And it also showed that when you have higher doses, you can increase your test by as much as 15%. The mechanism of action for this is because it can promote hormonal balance, it can reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, and even some evidence that it can actually increase testosterone receptor sensitivity. And so the actual androgen receptors can be more sensitive to the tests that you have. The big problem with this, there's two big problems that you need to be aware of. For some people, it makes them absolutely sleepy as all hell, okay? Personally, I was taking the Gorilla Mind Sigma and it was making me so sleepy I had to stop taking it. And actually my brother was taking it as well and he gave me his bottles because it was making him sleepy. So you need to be careful with that. And number two, you do need to cycle off ashwagandha because it can actually have permanent inhibitory effects on your like hepatopituitary pathway, okay? And number three, in high enough doses, or if you're sensitive to it, it can cause liver damage. And I'll put up this paper here, but you can actually, there's people who literally have like liver toxicity and have even had to go into like a liver transplant for taking too high doses. You can get all of those supplements separately. So what else could you do to boost your testosterone? Well, of course you could go on TRT, okay? Hot taking here. First of all, if you are on TRT and you are getting it from a doctor, then ignore what I'm gonna say, okay? But this is just my opinion. And I know that the TRT warriors are gonna come out of the woodworks and be, actually, you know, in the comments on this. Just like the guys who are like defending SARMs online. Like, I literally think that there's cognitive dissonance where they have to tell themselves something they've convinced themselves of it. But look guys, TRT has its own risks, okay? There's things like the potential, it doesn't mean this is guaranteed it's gonna happen, but there's potential for things like cardiac disease, blood clots, liver dysfunction, prostate hypertrophy, and even questionable to no evidence of actual prostate cancer increase. Because guys, if you didn't know, prostate cancer feeds on testosterone, literally. There have been studies looking at TRT and prostate cancer risk, and they have not found a direct correlation between the two, but it's something that I personally, as an oncologist, have concerns about, okay? Now, if you have been diagnosed with low testosterone and tried these other things and corrected these other things like sleep, diet, nutrition, all that stuff, and you are still hypogonadal and your doctor puts you on it, then I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the young kids that are like, God, some of them in their teens or 20s that are on TRT. Now, if you are on TRT long enough, it will shut down your testosterone pathway, okay? It shuts it down because your body says, we don't need to make our own testosterone because we're getting testosterone. So you will need to be on TRT for life. You will need to be pinning yourself with testosterone for life, okay? To me, that's not worth it. If you want to do that, do you, okay? But I can't believe that there are people literally in their 20s that are on TRT and are likely going to need to be on it for life. And with all this social media and all these fitness influencers, it's becoming more and more prevalent. All these guys, my test was low, so I'm going to go on TRT, even though my test was low because I was on SARMs. But anyways, sorry, going a little unhinged. So what are my conclusions, okay? I think, without a doubt, increased levels of testosterone are good for PE in general, okay? Libido, motivation, mood, arousal, better erection quality, mental health, okay? All of those things are important. Will it directly make it bigger? No, it will not. You taking testosterone, DHT, alone is not going to make it bigger, okay? You want to avoid things that can limit your natural testosterone and consider a supplement. If you need to reach me, my Patreon is .kink. Watch some of my other videos, guys. I appreciate the love and the support from all you guys. And until the next one, peace and love.